His thirst wasn't quenched with corporate law. Now, this education and mental health advocate was looking for something else to fulfill his life purpose. What could it be? Find out next on Uplift. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to you, wherever you are joining us live or in replay around the world. Welcome to Uplift, uplifting conversations that set your heart on fire. My name is Sarah Wade. I'm an agent of change, nature lover, and believer in all things magic, because we can make it happen, right? My co-host, as per usual, Mr. Neil Thrussell, is joining us from Calgary in Canada. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. As Sarah said, my name is Neil Thrussell. I am a life coach, 3 times international best-selling author, and Sarah didn't tell me that Chris was previously was a lawyer. I would have lined up all of my lawyer jokes. Lawyer jokes and dad jokes, they're the best.
Well, you've beaten me to the punch, because I was going to talk all about law jokes. No, I wasn't. That's not my bag. Anyway, we have Chris Palasz joining us from Aspen in Colorado. Now, he is a peak state coach and an amazing man. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Lovely introduction, by the way. Loved it.
Thank you. Hey, Chris, I want to ask you a question that I don't know if everybody knows. What is a peak state coach?
Yeah, there's a story around this, because I'm not sure if the term is really out there. You know, a lot of people confuse me for a peak performance coach. Yeah. And, you know, whenever I tell them I'm a peak state coach, they automatically make the translation. I said, no, peak state. So like, well, what does that mean? And it really comes from an event that I attended back in 2018. I actually attended a Date with Destiny and Tony Robbins. And how the name came about was, there's a day. Have you guys ever done Date with Destiny?
I have, yeah.
Are you familiar with the day that you're supposed to recite your mission? You come up with your mission and you're supposed to recite it in front of everyone. Well, we're not in front of everyone, but like with a partner. Well, yeah. I start reciting my mission, and you know, all of a sudden, like the exercise is over, and Tony says, "Okay, who here is absolutely certain that they could come up here, recite their mission, and convince everyone that that's their mission in life?" And I was like, I just got up on my chair. I'm like, me, right? Like, I don't think the 5,000 people that were there, and there were probably 2 or 3 other people. I looked around, and there weren't many people raising their hand, you know? And I was like, wow. And so Tony points, you know, he's like, see those guys? And I think there was a woman as well. And see that woman over there? See those guys? I am certain they could come up here and convince us that that's their mission. So I'm not going to pick them, because the level of certainty was so convincing that it just, you know. So after that, I get off my chair and I get selected by one of the trainers there to come around and coach other people on how to recite their mission. So, you know, they're feeling it more than just saying it, you know, instead of a logical level, a state, an emotional state level. So one of the women that I was coaching, she's from Portugal, and she's like, my God, Chris, thank you so much. You are like the peak state coach. And I was like, you're right. I am that. So that's how the name came about. And that's how I market myself nowadays, you know. So that's the story behind the peak state coaching.
So I have a question. Prior to this event, would you have ever pictured yourself standing on a chair and going, pick me, pick me?
Possibly, Neil, but not with the level of certainty that I had that day.
No. So as part of the peak state, is this certainty? Like, when you're in a peak state, do you absolutely know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is it?
Yeah, I believe so. I think, I play around with this. I reflect a lot on this. What was this all about? I kind of philosophize a little bit, sometimes too much, but it really comes down to that, to being in a state of certainty, creating your certainty, and that's really the state that I think people like to be in, to feel either confident or feel assured and not be needing any external things, call it a substance or a recognition or something to validate them, but then themselves being able to put themselves in a state where that's it, that's enough, and from here I can do and create whatever I want, kind of thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a viewer question about peak state, and Stan was asking, isn't it exhausting to be constantly in peak state? Don't you get burnout?
Yeah.
What is your perception about this?
I think that's a great question. Definitely, I think to be in a peak state doesn't mean that you permanently live there. I'd be drained. I probably, I'm 43, but if I constantly try to live in a peak state, I probably look much older. So I don't think it's about that. I think it's really understanding the tools to get yourself back on track, kind of thing, right? Of rebounding quickly. Like for example, I've been working with a lot of people now that the pandemic has been happening, because they're like, how do I rebound from this? How do I come back? And what buttons do I press in myself so I'm not relying on anything else? My work's turned out to be a failure. I know I don't like my job. Maybe relationships failing. Like it's, I joke around about this, but this has caught a lot of people with their pants down. Like the true, like the dirty claws have come out, and you've noticed it, within you, because you got nowhere else to hide, kind of thing. So to answer your question, Sarah, it is draining if you're constantly trying to live in a peak state, but sometimes peak state means peaceful state. Peak state means a restful state. Peak state means a trustworthy state where you're, I talk about faith a lot. Faith is my number one value. It has been for several years. And the reason why it is because I like to be able to give my problems to something bigger. Call it God, universe, whatever you believe in. I believe in Jesus Christ. And I like to give my problems, say, you take care of it. I'll take action, but please, you take care of it and you guide me along the way. So that's peak state as well. There's a formula that I've made out of peak, kind of to provide people a system on how to get themselves in peak state. And you'll notice it's not something that gets you hugely jazzed or pumped up. It's just something that maybe helps you maintain, an even keel throughout your day, so you can be productive or joyous or just have a right attitude or something along those lines to make your life more enjoyable.
Is that something you're willing to share with us, or is that something that you only keep back for your clients, Chris?
100%. Let's do it. So peak. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
The ring light slightly, but we can work with it.
We know that the ring light is the E.
Oh, I see. There's a ring light. So maybe I'll turn this off for a second.
And how good is that we are bringing in models into this conversation? We are not even 10 minutes in, and here comes the peak state coach out of nowhere, bringing in the models, bringing the goods.
Happy to share.
Do you think he was prepared? Were you a Boy Scout?
I was a Boy Scout. And since I didn't know what really to prepare for other than a flowy conversation, I'm like, well, I'll just have tools in the background just in case. But basically, peak stands for, I like to call it pray. Some people meditate. Some people just calm themselves down, connect with a creator, call on something bigger, right, than themselves. And this is really powerful for me, because right away, as soon as I start my day, I am, again, giving my any worries I may have, any concerns, anything that's really bothering me, throwing me a little bit off to someone else, something bigger that can take care of them for me. I don't have to worry about it all. And I trust that. The second thing, or the E, stands for exercising. So moving, acting on something, just taking that action, moving your body to get yourself in that state, and something that, creating some energy, bringing some energy into your body. That really helps me. The A stands for ask, and asking the right questions is really the phrase that I should put on there, but we'll leave it for ask. Asking the right questions. And what that does for me is starts to guide my mind on what I want to focus on today, hence putting me in a certain state. And the K, finally, is to just knock it all out. You do all three, and you get started with your day. So that's a quick, easy, simple strategy that I'm happy to share with you guys. Hope that serves you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. So how does a lawyer go from being a lawyer and all of the corporate or whatever practice you had, go to now saying that, no, my passion is that I want to help people discover and maintain and understand a peak state?
I think, Neil, it's something that you discover very quickly if you're called to it, kind of thing. I was certainly happy to go into corporate law and study it and train my brain to solve problems, because I think that's what lawyers do. I come from a background of family lawyers, so I had some influence in that regard. Nevertheless, I went into law to help people, because I thought that's what my siblings did. My grandfather was a great lawyer. He was a congressman, and he really fought for like human rights and stuff. And I love that about him and his leadership. Nevertheless, when I went to study, I chose corporate law, because there was some influences, and they're like, yeah, that's kind of the law that's trendy now, and the one that's going to give you the most money. And as soon as I started practicing, I saw very quickly that I wasn't going to be serving people as I had envisioned or I had imagined. And that where it was a red flag. And I could have changed fields in the legal world, but still I was like, there's going to be a lot of this friction and debating, blah, blah. So I felt this calling. I remember I was working for this bank, and I was in the 14th floor filling out mortgage loan contracts and stuff. And you could see the whole city of Lima. I was living in Lima at the moment, and you could see the whole city from the 14th floor, or at least a large part of it. And it's just like the windows just kept on saying, like, come on out, bud. Come on out and experience it like differently. And I don't know. It was just like, it was that moment. I was like, what? But I felt it. I really felt it. And I knew I had to go explore, and there was something else out there for me. So that day when I felt that, I usually had lunch at my grandparents' house, who lived pretty close to this bank. I went to my grandfather and I said, hey, I have a conflict. And he's like, what's that? And I said, I've studied the law. I was very good at it. Humbly speaking, my brain really understood how it worked. But there's something in me that's just not aligning with this. And it's not something I envisioned. And he's like, well, how'd you picture it? I just said, well, I pictured just helping people and solving their problems and then being happy and shining because of it. And then he said, Chris, if you want to help people, there are many ways you can do it. The key is for you to find out what that is and go after it.
Very wise words your grandfather shared with you.
Yeah. And because I really admired him, and he wasn't a talkative man, he was a listener. And he took the time to kind of put that phrase together so wisely, like you said, Neil, and just so naturally that I obeyed.
Yeah.
I obeyed. And I remember that day I came back and I put in my 2 weeks, and I said, this is not for me. Sorry, guys, I got to go. And off I was.
Decision maker.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent. So is that then part of your grandfather's legacy, you know, that you will pass on to your kids and so forth, or is something else?
The part of following your heart, or
yeah, doing what's right for you, what feels aligned for you.
Yeah, definitely, Sarah. I think it's something that I communicate to my kids very often. My kids are diverse creatures and they like different things. And my daughter's kind of like a soccer player / DJ, and my son's like a dancer / techie, you know, producer guy who likes doing videos and stuff. So, you know, let them try it out, see what works for them, and whatever makes you happy, you know, that's what's going to be it for you.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super happy with the decision I made. I mean, it was like, I'm sure you guys can experience this. I think we all go through struggles on the way of discovering. I mean, that's part of the discovery. But now looking back, it's all been well worth it, because I feel that at least in this area of my life, I feel exactly where I need to be and where I'm making the impact that I was envisioned.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So how does one go from Lima, and then in the green room we were talking, you were in Toronto, to
Right.
ending up now in Colorado?
Yeah, I know. Well, those are various stories, but basically my dad was a banker. He was an international banking businessman, and we were living in Lima in 1990, where this, let's call him a communist, took over the country as a president. And my dad was like, no way. My dad's American. And my dad's like, no way, I'm staying here with a communist. You know, it's going to be, it's going to be a tough time. I'm moving my fam over to the States. We all have American passports, you know.
Yep.
And my mom said, okay, well, if you want to go to America, let's go to Canada, because I have a sister that's living in Canada. Let's not go to the States. She already lived in the States. She didn't really like it as much. So we went to Canada, and we lived in Canada for 7 years. And after those 7 years, I mean, it was fun and all, but my parents really got tired of the cold. They couldn't stand it. So they moved back to Lima, and that's what it was. I finished my law degree there, you know, with certain things happening in the middle, kind of taking a year off to still discover certain things. But then eventually I was in Barcelona finishing my law degree, and my brother was in Aspen doing a season here. He had come here with his friends and stuff, and he was working just like a lift operator here at the Medium. And he said, you would love this place. And he didn't have to tell me twice.
Just for a second, Aspen, Colorado is a phenomenal, world-renowned ski mecca place. It's like one of the best. I don't know. I've heard. I've never skied. It's one of the best in the world. So that's why your brother was smart to go there.
He certainly was. I mean, he picked him right.
Sorry to interrupt, but continue on.
No, that was it. You know, I mean, once he said that, I was like, you know, it is a wonderful place. I had seen this movie called Aspen, and I knew I wanted to check it out. So I had no attachments. I was done with law school. Barcelona was pretty much wrapping up. So I just got on a plane, came here, and then just couldn't leave. It was just, like you said, a magnificent place. And in many ways, certainly skiing brings you here, they say, but then the town nurtures you, and it's really welcoming, and it's just a pretty unique place to live in the world. So I feel pretty fortunate to have built a life here.
I was in Colorado once, and it was just to switch planes. And as I'm taxiing into Colorado, and I'm looking to my left out the window, and I thought, holy crap, this looks like exactly what Calgary looks like, because the mountains are, you know, in the distance, and you can see it. And when you land in Calgary and you look off to the west, you can see the mountains. I was like, where am I?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been to Manitoba, so I'm not certain, but
No, Calgary, Alberta.
Calgary, I'm sorry.
No worries. It's all good.
My brother was a snowboard instructor for a number of years, and he followed the circuit around. You know, when you're in that field, you follow the winter. So he followed the winter all around the world. He went from Japan to Europe, and Aspen was one of his favorite places. And he, like you said, that the people there are just amazing. And they're really quite like Australians in Aspen. So he was like, yeah, go there, enjoy. So, you know, we've got, you know, 2 people here saying go visit Aspen, and Neil's saying, hey, it's kind of a lot like Calgary. So go check it out, guys. Go have fun. And hey, you might even run into Chris.
Yeah, it's a small town for sure. Yeah. Now there's skiing in Calgary as well, isn't there, Neil?
Yeah, there's Lake Louise, where a lot of the World Cups are held. There's a place called Sunshine. There's a place called Norquay. There's 4 ski hills within 2-hour drive, and there's another 3 within a 4-hour drive.
I heard Lake Louise is beautiful.
It is phenomenal. It's just breathtaking in the winter and in summer.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
So, how did you so you decided that you wanted to be a coach. How did you decide that Peak State was going to be, like you said, you wanted to be in that Peak State, and that was the name of your company. But how is it that you chose this niche or niche, whatever way you want to say it, as to be that you could benefit and help and uplift the most amount of people?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. I think it's one that's taken me a while to answer as well, because you know there's this book I'm thinking about, The Obstacle is the Way. Have you heard of that one? Is it? Yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the author right now, but it's just a phenomenal book, and I remember like thinking, oh my God, why does this have to be such a struggle, right? I was going because I land in Aspen, and now I'm like, okay, what should I do, right? I have a law degree, but I don't want to practice law. So what are you going to do? And I had seen this movie Aspen about ski instructors, so it was really dreamy kind of job. And I remember going up to the school and saying, hey, you guys looking for ski instructors? And they're saying, yeah, we actually are. Well, are you certified? I said, well, not yet, but I will become certified. And so I did. I became certified, and they gave me a job, and I became a ski instructor in Aspen. Well, for Selmas Mountain, one of our mountains. And I just started doing that, in the winters, in the summertime. I would do different things. I would, wait tables, what other jobs did I do? Mainly that, because we're in the tourism industry here. So anything that's, tailored to accommodate guests, hotels, anything like that, it was pretty easy to get jobs like. But eventually, I met my wife, and our kid was in the way, and I was like, okay, wait, I gotta, get off the slopes here. I gotta do something else, right? I'm sitting on a law degree. I'm a professional. Like, what else is there, right? And I love skiing, but I knew that too wasn't my passion. It had been fun. So I started applying for nonprofit organizations. And the reason I applied for those was because they had a mission. And I identified myself with collaborating, contributing to a mission. And I'm like, well, if there are organizations out there already doing good, I want to be a part of that. So I joined one that was called the Buddy Program. It's like the Big Brother organization here, local organization. Wonderful program. Did that for a few years, then transferred to another one called English in Action, which helped immigrants with adapting to the society and teaching them English. So you'd pair volunteers with immigrants, and I speak 3 languages, so that was pretty beneficial for that organization as well. I enjoyed it, but eventually it's like you have this. Okay, what else, right? Like, you're growing, you're in this stage. What else can I do? And my LinkedIn profile, which had recently been updated, got scouted by this hotel here locally. It was a 5-star, 5-diamond hotel that saw that I had a law degree, that had been in this nonprofit organizations that I spoke languages, and they call me and they're like, "Hey, are you interested in becoming, a HR coordinator?" I think it was that position. And I say, "Well, that sounds challenging." They told me a little bit about the position. They told me about the enterprise. I'm like, wow, that's completely to the right field. I've been working nonprofit and it was completely for profit, but it was a challenge and it was at the right time. Good benefits, kind of associating with helping people. So I go into that. I remember I was in that job, and the first month I hated it. I hated it.
Sorry for laughing, but I understand.
It was brutal. Yeah. It was, if you attention to detail, but on steroids. Yeah. Over 500 people in not season, and when you had full season, we call full season when you have people from other places in the world coming to work for the company seasonally. 3,000 employees, and it was 4 of us, and it was just madness. And you can't. There was one time that there was I think it was, let's just call him a John Smith and a Jonathan Smith, and one of them was like senior director, and the other one was like a waiter, and I mixed up their paychecks, and I gave the waiter the salary of the senior director, and the senior director's the salary for the waiter. And the guy calls and he's like, "My salary sure dropped a lot." And so when I looked, I'm like, "Oh my God, sorry." I had to do the whole thing with the bank. And those things started to indicate certain things about me. And that I'm like, listen, like I can be good. I'm helpful, but I'm not the detail oriented who's going to be on my computer looking at numbers and crunching things. Like that's just not me. So that was also a great learning experience, because that taught me that's not me. So after not even a year, I was like, I'm out of here. I gotta go find something else that's more aligned with who I am. And I continued on that. And I went to sales. For the same company because I spoke languages. It was very easy for me to relate messages, communicate, blah, blah. And that went great. But as always, my question was always, okay, what else? How else can I grow? How else can I contribute? And is this aligned with my passion, right? I had learned about what life coaching was in a very general way, and it seemed aligned with what I was looking for, but I did not have the guts to just leave my full-time employment to jump into a life coaching business. Mm-hmm. I wasn't ready for it. I was just doubtful. I didn't know sure if I could do it. I was a little bit scared. I had a daughter on the way. I mean, there were all these factors. And I mean, you guys, I'm not sure how well you know the American medical system, but it's hectic. So it's very expensive especially in a place like Aspen is, so you need all these benefits from an employee, you need that security. And I hated the fact that I needed the security. I was like, well, why don't you just go for it? Like, you have the abilities, you can improve the skills, you can, advance in this way. So this conflict would go on nightly.
Yeah, and I wonder if our viewers can relate to that internal conflict, right? We saw Neil before relating, and I can relate to, and I trust that those watching live or in replay get that feeling too. Chris?
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't able, but me not being able to manage that conflict cost me a ton of stress, because there was this internal talk going on at night that wasn't letting me sleep. It was getting me very moody. I could feel it, in my reactions. I was reacting to things. People said something. I heard about people creating their businesses. I'd be pissed at them. I'd be like, oh my God, jealous, because you're like, I want that too. But I want it this way. But what's limiting you? It's your own internal conflict, right? Your self-talk, your limitations, maybe your lack of experience, your self-doubt, all this stuff that we have is totally normal.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to. Yeah. So my lack of not knowing how to manage that was what was, I think, most frustrating.
Yeah.
So
how do you get that frustration then?
I went to seek help for it. You know, I remember
that in itself is typically not a male thing to do. So
it's not.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you. So
Thanks,
if you're
Neil.
one of our listeners, pay attention. There was a one man, and we have it on video that he asked for help.
Yeah. I've never been embarrassed to ask for help, but you know, I'm very cautious on who I ask help for. So that's I'm diligent with. But there was a situation. I went to my doctors. I was experiencing all these body pains. I remember I was 33, and all these things were starting to happen. You know, my body was reacting. Yeah. So I went to my doctor. I said, I don't know what's going on, but this is happening. Stress, my headache, migraines, like, you know, my bladder, like just everything's going crazy. What's happening? And my doctor says, are you under a lot of stress? I'm like, I don't know. Like, how do you define a lot of stress at 33, right?
You were right.
And I said, I don't know. I think so. You know, he's like, are you happy with your job? I said, no. He's like, how's your marriage? I'm like, it's okay. He's like, are you happy with your kids? I'm like, sure, I love them. Are you acting as, you know, a leader in these areas? I said, not to the best of my ability. He's like, okay, cool. Are you happy about that? I said, no. He's like, okay, you're stressed. Stressed. And he's like, have these pills. And I said, pills? He's like, yeah, have these pills to regulate your mental chemistry and stuff. And I said, well, what for stress? He's like, well, there's also a little bit of depression going on because you're not where you want to be. And I said, shit, depression. I'm like, that word just didn't sit well with me. Like, because of the meaning that maybe I associated with it at that time in my life. And I said, I don't know about this. So I remember that night, I came home. I was feeling really down on myself, kind of like I did something wrong. And I took the pill. I just said, I'm just going to take this pill. And after taking the pill, the next day I actually felt different, a little bit, maybe better, maybe more stable. I don't know. Maybe not thinking as much. And I remember that day I started to research on depression and what it was about, how to overcome it, this and that. And in my research, I came across this guy named Tony Robbins, who described this condition as an emotional state that when interrupted, you could get yourself in a different state. It was just an emotional pattern that you had been getting yourself in. And I was like, well, this makes sense to me because I was looking back on my last few years. I was kind of going back on what's happened and just doing my self-diagnosis. And I said, this makes sense, huh? So in order for me to interrupt, I got to really start doing something different. And that's where I got his program on personal power and then the edge. And I started applying these certain strategies that he teaches. And that itself did help me a bunch. Just to get myself out of state. So I didn't take any more pills after that. I was really kind of determined on doing this on my own, not because there's anything wrong with having something in case you need it, just because I didn't think I had tried everything in order to get myself out of the state.
Love that you went that extra mile, that you had an offer. You're like, you know what, I'm going to keep doing my research. I'm going to see what else is available. So many people just take that Band-Aid option, but realistically it wouldn't help in the long run, would it? Because you'd still be stuck in that job that you didn't like, in that relationship that was all right but not great.
Exactly.
And you made changes.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's how it started. Did I answer your question, Neil? I know I sometimes expand on things, but
it's all good. So at about halfway through the show, we like to give the opportunity. What is the best way for people to get a hold of you so that they can share? Because they sometimes pop in and then they see and they go, I really want to know more about this person, and then run away. because they've only got so much time. So we like to do this at about halfway. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Sure. So I think the easiest way, if people are on Facebook, they can just look me up on Facebook by my name at Christopher.Palasz, Palaszz, as I always like to say it and spell it. My parents always spelled it for me, so it's just like an unconscious habit. I just spell it. Yeah. And that's the best way for sure. Easiest way, Christopher Palasz, just on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, you might want to just send me an email or go to my website, at peakstate.coach. Super easy, peakstate.coach. And you'll find my email in there and can send me a direct message. So those are the two easiest and simplest ways.
Awesome. Thank you. So you're now coaching and you've been coaching for the last number of years, which is awesome. What have you noticed that you're the most helpful to people in?
I think from the feedback that I've gotten from my clients, it's always aligning them with the right energy, putting them in the right state, like getting them back on track. My clients, they're like, yeah, I love coming to you because I look forward to this session because I know I'm going to leave, wanting to do more and there's things that are aligned with my purpose and stuff. So my business has evolved. I've been coaching not for very long, since 2017. So it's been just under 5 years. And, there was this, I started doing events, like live events. I started doing them right until 2018, 2019, then 2020 came. I started doing them on Zoom and stuff. But when I had live events, which I haven't had since the pandemic started, there was this woman who came up to me after the event and she said, Chris. I said, yeah. She's like, you are like an injection of energy directly to the veins. And I was like, wow. I'm like, that's amazing, right? That was an amazing description. Yeah. And that's what I think I do. Again, humbly speaking, I do best. Like when I'm live and my job is to impact people so I can inspire them so they can be influenced to go out and, do what is it they want to do. And they're just lacking the belief in themselves because they're doubting, right? They're with the inner conflict, right? That we all go through. That's where I like to come in and like, boom. I'm like, this is why you're going to do it, and I think that's my talent.
I love that. It's something that I know worldwide so many people struggle with. And I love that, your story obviously shared your path and that's led you to helping others. Mm-hmm. And that's wonderful that, because so many people preach things that they just haven't done themselves. And here you are being completely authentic, following your path and helping other people to align with their path. What a beautiful gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And such an honor to be able to do it, and I think to your point, Sarah, I think it takes courage to align with your path, because I think, the heart speaks to us and it tells us where that path is, but it's up to us. Like Walt Disney says, there's a song that he plays I listen to once in a while just because it's so emotional. It really helps me align with my path. That the work is really to be able to listen, to hear that, and then to trust it in following. Is that an agreement statement? Motion,
Absolutely.
Neil? I preach.
Yeah. And as humans, we spend too much time talking and not enough time listening. Because when we really listen, we can really understand another. And I'm not just, we as coaches have learned to do active listening. And when people learn the skill of active listening and really paying attention, that's when friendships and romances and everything just, I believe, goes to the next level.
I agree 100%.
It's reminded me of, treat people how you want to be treated. That doesn't always work because, how I want to be treated is probably different to how Chris wants to be treated. And no doubt is different to how Neil wants to be treated. So why not have that conversation and truly listen to that person, their needs, their wants, their desires, their passions, and have that deeper, uplifting conversation with them. Do you have uplifting conversations with your kids?
Oh yeah, all the time. One of the most gratifying roles I'm finding out now that I'm a father is being a father. I think I would have never ever imagined it be so fulfilling. If you enjoy being a father and you're all about this role. Sometimes I tell my wife, like, I could stay home and do all this stuff, and while you go out and work, and I'll just raise the kids. I love being an active part of their life, and whenever they get home, I'll drop everything, and I'm like checking in. I'm like, hey, so tell me all about it. Tell me about it. And they're like, they just know, they line up. Okay, Dad. So listen, this happened, right? And then this happened, and they just go off, right? And I'm just there enjoying the moment, because I think to myself, how many more years will I have of this, right? When they just get home and they're excited to tell me all about their stuff. So I can't. So Sarah, that is such a great question, and something that I always get very excited about, because I truly enjoy being a dad. Really, it's such a great opportunity to teach and have these conversations. I remember even through my challenges, when I'm moody, I'm not a big state, you could say, right? And they're like, hey, Dad, what's going on? Right? What's happening? What's wrong? You good? Because I'll ask them that. You good? They're like, you good? And I say, no, I'm not good. Like, what happened? And I'll tell them, I'll share with them my story. And it could go from anything. I was like, yeah, I had this, back in the day when I was working for a company, I was like, I had this, encounter with my supervisor, and I told her this. And I'm not sure if that was the right way to react. I think I was reacting instead of responding. I said, do you guys know the difference between that? And he's like, no, Dad, what's the difference? I'm like, well, reacting is just doing something out of unconsciously. You don't think about it. Responding is taking a minute to process and then deciding if you want to see something or not. I'm like, huh. I like having these interactions with them, right? It really makes me feel like meaning in my life, because I'm passing on something that's going to be beneficial, a tool for kids. And, I think this leads up to another subject I want to talk to you guys about, which is purposeful leadership, which is a concept that it's not mine, but I've certainly been talking about it a lot. I've never read about it. I've looked it up on Google, and I'm not sure many people are, but there's mainly definitions, but not a whole concept. So I'm working on this book around purposeful leadership. And I think it ties in with my kids, because I always tell them, listen, we can all be in leadership positions. That does not make us leaders. What makes us leaders is the ability to influence our thoughts, to influence our words, to influence our actions, our behaviors, and to inspire others to do the same. This is purposeful leadership. So there's this, more in-depth connotation around being able to lead in a more purposeful, thought-out way. Like, you are really in charge here. You're in charge of your life. You're in charge of the roles that you choose to partake in life. That's all up to you. So design it, and design it well, because this is your one opportunity. So I chat with these about them all the time, Sarah. Like right now, my wife's gone, and last night we stayed up till 2 a.m. chatting with stuff like this. It's just that we have a great relationship, so it's fun for me.
Wonderful.
I loved it. In the span of 3 minutes, we talked about two. You touched on two of the greatest communication tools ever out there: to actively listen and to respond instead of react. And two of them, how many disagreements, aka fights, we would have with someone if we were listening and we responded as opposed to react. We'd have almost no personal differences in your relationship or fights. So in less than 3 minutes, you touched on both of them. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. And it ties into leadership perfectly as well.
Absolutely. And I think the leaders of today, you know, they don't have to wait until they're 18, right? You know, you can start talking to your kids at quite a young age. Like I've got a 5-year-old now. I talked to her about this stuff already, have been for years. And it shows up in her classroom. And her teachers say, you know, she's a really good kid and she affects others in the classroom. And she knows this, you know. And I think it's a beautiful thing to empower our children to do. What an amazing gift. If you had to give someone a tip, what would that be about leadership and children?
I think don't worry so much about telling them what to do as much as showing them.
Beautiful.
Show them what to do.
Yeah, I think, and hey, granted, I'm not the best at it, but I'm conscious about it, so I work at it very hard because, you know, there's no way I can tell my 13-year-old right now is going through the electronics, you know, phase where everything's like either a computer or phone, you know, whatever. He's got to have some type of screen, and even though we live in a place where he's got massive activities to do outdoors, he prefers the screen. Well, how can I tell him, don't touch your phone if I got my phone in my hand? It's incongruent, you know. And I think a lot of parents fall into this trap.
Yeah.
Well, and my son will say, well, you're doing it. And I said, well, yeah, but I do it for work. You don't need it. For you is a privilege. For me is an obligation kind of thing. Blah, 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 right?
Yep.
Yes. And it's like, no, part of being a purposeful leader is I got to be congruent. I got to show. I got to be exemplary. I can't tell them, don't yell at your sister if I'm like, eat your Brussels sprouts, you know. Dad, you're being incongruent.
Yeah.
You know, they call me out on this stuff, so they're great at it. You know, they coach me sometimes, and I'm like, I feel so privileged that they do. So I think you gotta start doing more of the stuff that you preach. Just do. Don't preach as much.
One of the amazing books that I've come across, this is a huge book, by the way, that I've been reading to my toddler, The World of My Emotions.
Uh-huh.
It's a beautiful book. If anyone wants to get it, it's by Melissa Reeves, Enlightened Press. And it's so good because as a small child, you can relate to these emotions and you can put more words to what's going on inside. Even if you don't have the words, you know, as a small child, you can relate to this barren feeling. And in this book, it's generated these beautiful conversations with my daughter and I. And then from there, you know, she's moved that into relationships with her friends. And like I mentioned before, she's becoming that little leader in her tribe and really showing that it's okay to have emotions, a whole range of emotions. Like living in positive only state is a lot of crap, if you ask me. We have roller coasters of life, and it's okay to have this full palette of emotions. And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to share things at a small age. And guys, if you've got kids at home, whether you are a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a godfather, a friend, include those little kids and don't talk down to them. I don't know if you remember when you were a kid and you had an adult and you're like, don't, you know, I'm not a baby. Have decent conversations with that child. Really uplift them with your presence and that conversation that you generate. You never know how that's going to affect that child. But I'm sure we've all had those teachers who inspired us, or those people that inspired us. Why not be that person you?
Absolutely. So it's terrible that we could continue this on for hours, but we're getting close. We still have time, but we're getting close to running out of time. And I'd like to give Chris the opportunity to talk about his Peak State Academy. Like, what is your Peak State Academy?
Cool. Thanks so much, Neil. So the Peak State Academy actually came about per the circumstances in the world. I had to transition to go online and create a program basically for leaders and aspiring leaders who want to be able to get a better handle on their mental and emotional state, right? So through the academy, what we teach are the strategies, the tools in order for you to discipline your mind, know how, like what I like to call it, press those buttons, to be in the right emotional state so you can make a significant impact both in your personal and your professional life, because I don't differentiate the two. I think they're both one. It's just we live one life, and these strategies really impact both of those areas significantly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So to our observant viewers, you will notice that, yes, there is a website that you can get more information, and you can get Chris's email off of it, and you can get more information, which is awesome. And I highly encourage you to continue your journey with Chris. And I do know that Sarah is running this incredible program, and she has a wait list for her next one.
I do. Thank you, Neil, and thank you for sharing, Chris. I appreciate that. Hey, guys, I am excited to share that Evolve is going incredibly well. Participants literally from all over the planet have trusted in me. And just like Chris was saying, people who feel out of alignment, it can get overwhelming, overbearing. You don't feel like you can trust yourself anymore. Like, who am I? Things have changed. Most of the people who I work with are in their 30s and 40s. So, they've gone through those early stages of life, new loves, first jobs, maybe first marriages, first kids. Now what? Who am I now? So basically the aim of this program is to help people to have a better relationship with themselves and others. So by looking at ourselves in new ways, like I encourage people to, like I showed you before that book, I work with emotions in terms of things like the weather report, which we've brought up before, and I know Neil is familiar with, because it's with symbols that we can really understand more, because we're taking away those words, those ones that just overwhelm you. Peel that back and look what's within, because I trust that you, like me, know that that's the way that you will really design the life you desire. And Neil, I know you've got a lot of stuff happening too. Please share.
I'm super pumped. As a 3 times best-selling author, I self-published my own books. And it was actually Sarah that we were having a conversation in early January, and she said, what hidden gem or talent that are you not using that the world is looking for? And I went, I don't know. And then I said, well, I self-published my books. And then she gave me this look, and I went, oh, okay, yes, I need to share this, because there's energy and effort to learning how to self-publish it, but if you put the energy and effort into it, it is available to everyone. And not, if you can get a book publisher, that's great. But for most people, there's far more profit in self-publishing your own book. So I put together 7 steps to publishing your book or an ebook, because they're pretty close to the same. And I'm running this program March 10th at 7 p.m., which I believe is a Thursday. And I would love to see you, no matter where you are in the world, because if you sign up, you can get the replay.
And I've been telling you replay from last time, and gee, there's some gold in there. I highly recommend that you go to 7steps.neilthrussell.com and check it out.
Thank you.
Amazing.
So we're getting to the end of the show, and isn't it amazing how, when you have good conversations, the time just absolutely flies, right? So I'm curious, before we head off, Chris, is there any sort of final thoughts that you want to leave us with?
I mean, wow, certainly. I remember when I was 14 years old, I was transitioning from middle school to high school in Toronto, and we had to sign our yearbook. And, one of the questions that you were given to give you as guidance in able to leave your thought and your first year yearbook as a freshman was, what is your purpose? What do you want to be when you grow up? Certain guiding questions. But I remember the one around purpose really stuck with me, right? Because I was like, yeah, that's my question. And I remember writing, the purpose of life is living life on purpose. And, till this day, I think about that and how they just came to me, because I was always one that I've never really liked to follow the trend. I'd like to do my own thing and lead life with intent, and just be sure that whatever I'm choosing to do is going to make me happy. Not because I'm selfish, but because by being happy, I'll be able to share my happiness with others. And that to me was the whole intent and sole purpose of writing that. It was like, if our purpose is to be happy, then do it. Be happy so you can share your happiness and joy with others. And I think that's a really powerful statement, if I may say so myself, because that's, ultimately that's what we're here for. And we, it sounds cliche, but it's very little time. It's very little time. In my group in Facebook, I'm not sure if you watch this, Sarah. I know you're new to that, but I present myself saying, in life we have three parts: the beginning and the end. In the middle, we have time, and that's all we have. So we better choose wisely what we're going to do with this limited time. That's our purpose. So yeah, I hope that serves you guys and your reviewers and whoever watches this.
That's wonderful. And I'd like to leave with, whatever you do it with love. Share your love freely, whether it's your passions, whether it's your purpose, or whether it's just sharing your affection and sharing your love for another and the things that you enjoy. Don't be shy. Share and spread your love.
What great sentiment. I love that. Thank you.
I agree. 100%, Neil. So important, especially nowadays, love and kindness, and being able to share that openly and do so more, with brothers and sisters, from all over the world, without holding back.
Absolutely.
Holding back, because what if you got to lose, happiness or not happiness? I know which I would want to choose to keep, and which one I'd like to lose.
Very true.
This whole conversation in the last hour has had me thinking about, obviously we've spoken about leadership and kids and going forward with passion and purpose and happiness. Where does that sort of leave your legacy? Like, I know people in our circle, we talk about our legacy, but most humans don't have that thought in mind. Like, who and how are you going to affect in the future? What will your actions, your words say about you, and how will they affect future leaders, future generations? And if you haven't thought about it, that's okay. As I mentioned before, take the time now, grab out pen and paper and write it down, because when you put it out there, it's more likely to happen, right? So guys, until we see each other next fortnight on Uplift, I wish you all the best. And I trust you, like us, are going to get out there and design the life you desire by creating uplifting conversations. Till next time.
Bye. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Of course.